In 2014, my family hosted a 40-day dinner for my Uncle Daryl, who had recently passed away. When it came time to throw that dinner, my family asked me to get up and say a few words to our guests. And when I did, I got up and I spoke about the most important lesson I had learned from him. And that was, if we're to remain a strong family, and if we're to become a strong community, we need to learn our culture and our history and keep it safe. And that way we can turn around and offer that to the next generation. I'm here today to illustrate to you the importance of the Tlingit language to our culture, and I hope that by sharing some of the history and the present day efforts that we're making and why the culture is so influenced by the language, I hope to give you some insight into why the language is so important to me and my identity as a Tlingit native. I want to start by giving you some of the history. In the early 19th century, the Russian Orthodox Church came to Alaska before it was a state, and they actually introduced a really preliminary alphabet and literary system, and that could have been an effort to improve communications with the Alaska Natives. However, then you also have the American and Christian missionaries that also came into the picture, and what they did was they would remove Native youth from their homes and actually try to assimilate them into the Americanized and Christianized culture by completely depleting any affiliations with the culture that the Native youth would have. They would actually punish the youth for even speaking their language, and that instilled a certain fear in embracing those Native youth embracing who they even were. In 1945, that took a huge turn when Elizabeth Peradovich approached the Alaskan Senate and delivered a really passionate speech fighting for and describing why Alaskan Natives needed to be treated with equality. And she actually helped to get the Alaskan Civil Rights Act passed. And that was a huge turning point in the Tlingit history, where those kids who had gone through that ordeal of the boarding schools, as that fear that was instilled was lifted, and the words that were in the back of their minds and their hearts, they came back out. And when it did, we took small steps and small milestones in trying to record and document that language. Most notably, perhaps the Dallenhauers created one of the largest collections of the Tlingit language through cassettes and writing books, instructional books, and that actually improved the access to the Alaskan Natives, their access to the Tlingit language. And that was really important because back then there was only a handful of fluent speakers, and today that number might even be smaller. However, over time, we've really started increasing our efforts to adapt to a new technological age, to where those VHS and cassette tapes that were previously recorded are being transferred and modernized to a digital format. And now they're state-of-the-art recording studios where we try to get the elders to, in their genuine conversation, record it in the best format possible so that we can keep that safe for future generations and essentially forever. Now you can take classes from different organizations. There's immersion camps where you can go with an instructor and speak nothing but the language. And then you can even get a minor at the University of Alaska Southeast in the Tlingit language. So the future of the language really depends on the motivation of the students to utilize the knowledge of the elders and to really commit to wanting to know as much as we can about the language. And I think that in my research, I found that the real importance behind the language is each word in the Tlingit language. It really establishes how our ancestors saw their relationship to different things in the world. And when we learn those words and bring them back to life, we are seeing through their eyes and learning what our relationship is to those things. And in that way, it actually turns out to be how we identify ourselves in this world, and that becomes a really important part of learning who we are as Tlingit people and where we're at with our culture. In my research, I actually found that my mother was one of the first people to try and organize a Tlingit language class in the University of Alaska Southeast. So it all started in Ketchikan when she tried to organize this class, and when I was talking to her in an interview, I learned that Probably one of the things that struck me most that she had said, and I quote, "It's taken me over 20 years to learn what I have in our language. I can see it, I can hear it, I understand it, I can speak it. It's not something that happens overnight or in a month. It's a lifetime of learning. Our Tlingit language is one of the most complex languages in the world. Nothing compares to it. When our language dies, we die. It's a very important part of us. What's the gravity of our language? There's no words for that. No words if we have no speakers left and no one who speaks our language. It's our identity. It's who we are. It identifies us as a Tlingit nation. It was at that moment that I truly understood that revitalizing our language isn't just about overcoming our history or modernizing to newer technologies. It's really about holding on to the essence of the Tlingit culture and to who we really are. Thank you.